They're going to give you other midpoint questions like this one. Find the other endpoint of line segment L with the given endpoint of 1, comma, -3, and the midpoint -4, comma, 5. Okay, so essentially this is what they have. They give you one endpoint and the midpoint. You need to find that other endpoint. The way that I answer this question is relatively easy. Think about it as a journey, walking journey. The midpoint is a halfway point. So if I walk a certain amount of direction in the x and a certain amount of direction in the y, and I get to the midpoint, I just need to repeat that again, the x and the y, to get to the end, the other end of my line segment. So I like to structure it like this. E1, my midpoint, like this. Then I just need to figure out what is my, change in my x and my change in my y from endpoint to midpoint. Then I just need to repeat that again to get to the other endpoint. Okay? So if we look at it, at this example right here, I'm going to write down my given endpoint, E1. That's 1, -3. Comes from here. Then my midpoint, I'm going to write it as -4 and 5 right here. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how much I have to walk in my x component from my endpoint to my midpoint. Okay. It's really asking, how do I go from 1 to -4? And if you don't see that, that's fine. You just take where you're going, the destination minus where you started. You'll figure out your change. So in this case, I'm going to take -4 minus 1, and I get -5, or -5. So I need to subtract 5. So if you look right here, you can kind of see it. I went in the left direction, -5. So from the midpoint, I just need to subtract 5 again, and I'll find the x component for my endpoint. So starting at -4, I'm going to subtract 5. And I get the x component for my other endpoint is -9. I'm going to repeat that again, but for y. What is the change that I need to occur? Go from -3 to 5. Again, I can take 5 minus -3, and this will tell me the change. I added 8, so I just need to do that again. Take 5, the midpoint, plus 8, and I get a 13. Okay? So the other endpoint is -9 and 13. I just found the change in my x and the change in my y and just repeated that from the midpoint. If you have any questions, please reach out. I would highly recommend writing this out. Write your E1, then your E1 and your midpoint, then figure out how much you have to do in the x and the y component. Repeat that again, and you'll find your other endpoint. If you have any questions, please reach out. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.